This episode of Express Training Bites is brought to you by Promo Corner. Are you looking to support a sales campaign and reach a larger audience? Raise your brand awareness with content sponsorships. For more information, reach out to sales@promocorner.com. This is Express Training Bites. I am Brandon Petrich, the digital media director for Promo Corner. And today we've got an entrepreneur, an author, a podcaster, a soul seeker. Swag Sam was what he goes by. And it's my friend, Sam Kabert. Sam, how are you doing, man?
What up, Brandon? I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me. And yeah, congratulations, bro, on being a rising star. You've been crushing it, and it's being seen by the industry. I love it.
That's
Man.
awesome. Thank you so much, man. Hey, and you guys may know Sam Kabert too, because he's a rising star in 2020. So we got that in common finally. And another thing we have in common is he actually writes a blog for us monthly too here at Promo Corner, and it's called Success with Swagger. So you got to check that out. It's a great blog. It comes out monthly. And actually, you're a repeat guest here on Express Training Bites. I think last time we talked about podcasting. So
yeah, I don't remember what we talked about, but I remember doing it.
Well, that's awesome. So Today, as you guys probably have seen in the title, we're going to be talking about mastermind groups. If you do have any questions for Sam, I am going to be monitoring the live on Facebook. So if you have any questions, put them right over there in the message box and I'll make sure that I get them to Sam. So to kick it right off, Sam, let's just try to educate people on what is a mastermind group.
Yeah, great question, Brandon. So Napoleon Hill, right? Most of us in business are familiar with the book Think and Grow Rich. This is a classic business and self-help, if you will, book that was written back in 1937. And the title really explains it all. Like I highly recommend reading the book. It's my favorite book of all time, but the title is the secret. In the entire book, he's alluding to this secret, right? And it's kind of cool how it's kind of like a game. It's like, oh, what's this secret? And there's these different words that he talks about, like burning desire, and nothing's really coming up for me right now. It's still early my time. But anyways, there's a lot of these different words, and I remember like writing them all down and, all of that. And I actually used that book to create my own goal setting framework, if you will. And that's really what catapulted me on my success. And maybe a few years ago or something, I was talking with a friend and they were talking about masterminds. And I was like, that's an interesting concept. And they go, yeah, like from Think and Grow Rich. And for whatever reason, when I read the book the first time, I guess the first few times, like the concept of a mastermind didn't resonate with me as much as like just that think and grow rich, that manifesting type of philosophy and having that inner burning desire. But then going back and rereading the book, I was like, oh, I've actually been doing this. And I've been calling them like think tanks. I remember at the beginning of my career in like 2012, 13, I was kind of more in the office supply industry rather than the swag industry, but we would network with other distributors. And even as I started to grow and do more in the promotional products industry, as you know, Brandon, and many of you guys know, like I've networked with a lot of distributors, and shout out to commonsku. I mean, that is a mastermind, if you will. It's this, they're their own little collective, and everything it's about, like they don't talk about being a mastermind in terms of their community or their events or anything, but all of their in-person events, which I've been going to since like 2015 or something like that when they first launched. Maybe it was earlier, I don't remember, but it's all about education, networking with people within your industry, right? So really, when I first started getting into masterminds, like on a formal level, I would say is probably in 2017 when I was podcasting and I put together a mastermind with other young professionals. And we had the common thread of being entrepreneurs and getting into podcasting, right? So the idea of a mastermind is there should be some sort of common thread. And like the example for commonsku, the common thread is that we're all in the swag industry, right? For the first official one I did, it was that we were young professionals, entrepreneurs, and getting into content creation. So really, a mastermind, it's interchangeable with the word think tank, but it's typically more around business business and career. However, it could be self-development as well. And there should be some sort of a common thread in terms of like what you're working on and what your goals are.
That's okay. So is it one person that is kind of hosting the mastermind and then the group works together? Like, are there different levels or different types of mastermind groups?
Yeah, it's a great question, Brandon. And I mean, these days, especially with everyone getting into like coaching, right? And like solopreneur, entrepreneur, whatever word resonates with you, there's been more and more masterminds popping up in the past few years, especially in the post-COVID era, right?
Mm.
Typically, there is going to be someone that is like the leader. And it's a collective though. It's not like the leader like in an organization where it's top down. It's just someone that's going to be facilitating it. And everyone runs their masterminds differently. Like for me, when I run a mastermind, I like to have prompts, and I am huge on accountability. I think the best entrepreneurs really are great with accountability, but what I've been seeing is people that are kind of at that roadblock, where they can't get to the next hump. It usually comes down to accountability. And a lot of times it's that they don't have some sort of think tank, mastermind, peer group for accountability. So for me, yes, masterminds are great to spark creativity and kind of lean on each other to not only share your wins, which I want to talk about wins in a second here, but also your frustrations. Because typically in a mastermind, I think of it as like, oh, I have this challenge. Who in the group can support me? Well, in my soul seeking journey, what really kind of led me to this path of like soul seeking is constantly chasing goals, crossing off goals, and then like having a little bit of a celebration when I get the goal. But what I've learned through the past year or so of really like doing the deep inner self-development work is that like everything deserves to be celebrated, even the small wins. So I would encourage you to celebrate small wins in your mastermind, in addition to just like being like in the masculine, like, oh, I gotta achieve this and I gotta get past this hurdle, right? Because that's tapping into the feminine to be more flowy and receptive and receiving to celebrate the small one. But anyways, I forget where else I was going with that, but yeah, accountability as well.
That is awesome. So I look at them as like kind of continuing education, not so much as a crutch to kind of lean on.
Mm.
And you see like universities and you see different terms that people use out there for that continuing education. So why should okay, so I'm gonna propose this question because I think there's a lot of people out there like, cool, I want to join a mastermind group, but holy crap, I don't have that much money. So why should somebody join one? Why is the cost worth it?
Totally. And I mean, it depends which type of mastermind you're looking at. And I've really been working on my language in terms of the word should. I know I already said it a couple of times and I was judging myself for saying it, but that's the thing, right? Like I would invite you to see if you feel called to use the spiritual language, like invite you. And if you feel called, but the truth is like, you shouldn't do anything, right? Like if you feel, I think one of the biggest problems in our culture, in our society is this feeling of like needing to do something. And a lot of us, myself included, would feel like, oh, I should join Mastermind because that's what everyone's doing. That's what's going to help me to the next level, but get to the next level. But sometimes all it is just slowing down, closing your eyes, taking a deep breath, and just checking in with yourself and seeing if it's a yes or a no, because your body will respond. Your body will light up and give you a yes, But anyways, masterminds are all different prices, right? Like I've hosted them from $100 a month to $500 a month to, an accelerator format that's maybe $2,000 to $3,000. Those are all like less expensive. The mastermind I'm in with Aubrey Marcus, Fit for Service, it's also a fellowship. That's pretty expensive. It's let's just say it's north of 10 grand a year. So there's definitely more expensive masterminds that are wild. Like there's one that Daniel Fleischman is doing with a lot of influencers. I think Grant Cardone might be involved. There's a lot of big names in it, but that one I think is $100,000 a year. So just to paint the picture, like there's a broad spectrum of pricing in terms of the mastermind. What really you want to look for is like, what are your goals, and do the people leading it truly resonate with you? And definitely get on a call with them to ask questions and, try it out and see if it's something that will be a good fit. But I wouldn't recommend to just like jump into a super expensive one. Like, you know what I mean?
No, absolutely. And I think that's the big thing too, is that this isn't just the next step in education, right? A mastermind isn't just the next thing that everybody has to do. I feel the same way you do. I feel that people feel like they're supposed to do that. You graduate high school, you're supposed to go to college, you're supposed to get more education. After you get that, you're supposed to continue doing that. I don't think that there is that big of a should. I am 100% with you that if it fits your need at that point in time, you feel a calling, you feel like getting with that person and having that one-on-one time, whatever that dollar amount is, will end up being worth it to you if you're there for the right reasons. So
Absolutely.
that's awesome. Um, so you said you're a part of one. What you talked about the good, sharing the goods and the bads. So can you give us some experiences of where you've shared, your goods and how it helped you and how the group helped you, and then when you shared your bad experiences and how it helped you?
Absolutely. So I joined Fit for Service, the fellowship and mastermind, in January of 2020. So I've been in it for over a year now. And we have 3 summits a year. So like 3 retreats, in-person events. And other than that, it's a lot of like community and digital content. And it's more of a soul development mastermind than even a self development. It's not so much even business, there are business components, but it's not even so much like, I'm going to get woo on you, but it's not even so much like being in the 3D and self development. It's really like spiritual and like in the 5D of soul development. So there's a lot of shares that go down in our app. We have a custom app just for us, and it's a private community, and they're like video shares. And I've done a couple video shares where I was like crying, like tears. Not a lot, to be honest, but there's a lot that come in where people are just like unloading of what's going on in their life and what they're processing, and then they have a community of 150 people to come in and support them. So we definitely get deep. We just got back from being in Costa Rica, and yeah, I actually did cry a lot out in that summit, and crying is kind of like a new thing for me as a man, right? Because guys aren't supposed to cry, and all that type of stuff. So that's kind of like what this one's about. It's looking into your shadows and doing like the shadow work and really confronting that stuff. Now that would be like kind of looking for support in
Mhm.
the really tough stuff. Some wins I've had recently are I'm leading the app. So we have 2 different masterminds. We have one that's $15,000 a year, or it's 5,000 a trimester, something along those lines. And then the other one is just access to the community. And that's, I believe, $18 a month. So it's way less expensive, super
Mhm.
inexpensive. And I lead the entrepreneurship and business group in that one. And we have about, I think, 8,000 members. And the other night I did a call for the business community in there. And I was just filled with so much gratitude to help all these people. Cause like I could, when you lead a call and like, sometimes you're like, I think that went well. Other times you're like, man, that didn't go well. And then there's the few times where you're like, damn, that was fire. Like that. The other night was like one of those where it was fire. And I'm not saying that to toot my own horn, because it's a group thing, like everyone was engaging.
Mhm.
And I feel like on these Zoom calls, workshops and things like that, if you want engagement as like the person leading it and they're not engaging, then it's not going to be that good. So the fact that everyone was engaging so much just made it really good. And, I tend to kind of play in the lane of business and extreme woo. Like I like talking about extraterrestrials and I like talking about alien or business, right? there's so many other areas of our mastermind to play in, so many other sandboxes. And I think the lane I kind of stay in is either business, or I'm talking about ETs or something super woo woo. So those are kind of like the areas I play in.
That's awesome. And I love your background too. I think the last time we did it, you just had like shiplap or something behind you. And now you got that celestial look, man. I love it.
Thanks, bro.
So what advice can you give to people? Because you do play that kind of far out and that grounded business side, right? So what advice or what kind of like tips can you give to people to take the things out that they should, or that they want to, or that they need to out of a mastermind? Because I think a lot of times, well, you and I have kind of been saying that. I kind of want to beat that horse just one more time, that you get out what you put in. So what kind of connections and how, like, do they need to engage more? Like, what kind of masterminds are there out there that they can join? And I know you're creating one right now, right? Or you have one that is live. I think it's called Clone Yourself, right?
Yeah, I can speak to mine. Thank you for that.
Yeah,
But typically, so I'll talk about my experience. And there
there
was
you go.
probably a couple of years where I was like, I had a couple big sales come through, big chunks of change, and I was like, oh, I want to invest this into my business. And then I was like, oh, I want to invest this into a mastermind. And I wasn't like out there really looking for one, but like I was keeping my eyes open. And I think that's part of the challenge, right? Because it's what's the quote? When the student is ready, the teacher will appear, something like that, and that's kind of what it is from a more woo perspective. And that's what my experience was in joining Fit for Service. Right before that, actually, I joined a mastermind for about the same amount for content creators. And a few months in, like it was just red flag after red flag after red flag. So I talked with the guy that led it, and I got out, luckily, and it was just a really bad experience, and that can happen. And part of that was like, I was so eager to join one that like this one didn't check all the boxes. So I was like, well, I'll do it. Right. And it was expensive, so I would probably start with something that's less expensive. And if you're going to go all in on something that's really expensive, make sure like, it's a strong yes. I'm trying not to curse. Right. Which, by the way, a short rant. So like we all know, like if it's a F yes, if it's not F yes, then it's a hell no or whatever.
Yeah.
That doesn't resonate with me, but it kind of does to a little bit, because sometimes like when things are like, oh, I think this is a yes, right? Like, but I'm not sure. Then it turns into hindsight being like, oh man, I am so glad I didn't use that advice, because that wasn't a strong yes, So I think discernment is important. In terms of my mastermind, I launched this Clone Yourself mastermind in, I don't know, January or something in 2020. And then once COVID hit, we had to shut it down just because, yeah. So that was unfortunate. And then I did a couple more different ones throughout COVID, just more relevant to the times, because my mastermind initially was about scaling your business, building out virtual teams, really getting things off your plate so that you could live your life more and work less. Then also teaching how to use content creation to increase your sales as well. Just efficiency is really when it's all boiled down to, and a small group container of accountability. So I relaunched this mastermind in, I think it was October, the one I'm talking about with like scaling your business and content creation and efficiencies. And that was the big one I did last year. And we just went through the cycle of it. So I'm relaunching it again. And I'm just, working back up to the price. It's a weird thing right now, because last year was $500 a month. And then, it just, the times have been tough. So this last time, to say it gently, this last time it was $100 a month, and then I'm relaunching it to $250 a month. So like I'm working my way back up to that 500 a month. You know what I mean? But yeah.
That's awesome. And how can our listeners and people who are watching this video in the future too, where can they find information on your new mastermind or your relaunched mastermind?
Yeah, I'll put the link in the comments of the Facebook,
Perfect.
but it's cloneyourself university.com/mastermind. And you can always just hit me up directly. The cool thing about this mastermind is I have about 5 or so courses, and most of them sell anywhere 2 to 3 grand. And with joining my mastermind, I let you choose whichever one of my courses you want for free. So it's a add bonus, and there's no minimum amount of months that you need to join my mastermind for. So if you want to screw me over and join for a month and pay $250 and get $2,000 to $3,000 course, hey, by all means, go for it. You know what I mean? So yeah, I'm just like kind of hang loose like that and chill in terms of, make because I really just want to help people. Because the truth is, I can make a ton of money selling swag and promotional products, but that doesn't fire me up as much as teaching people how to build a business that runs itself so that you're not a slave to your business.
Yep.
That to me is a stronger soul calling.
Yep.
So
The
yeah.
the last little part I want to talk about you get out what you put in is we talk about it here at Promo Corner, and when we're trying to sell our services to suppliers and distributors, that you can send one email, but that's not going to get out there. You got to, subscribe to a program that's going to be longevity, and it creates a routine, and it creates something that people are used to seeing, and then they remember your name when it's time for them to purchase. So I would gather that it's about the same in a mastermind, that the longer you're in with it and have that one-on-one coaching and also that group coaching, that it starts to make itself money, that the money isn't the problem up front. It may seem like a lot right at the beginning. And like you said, if you do just 1 month and you go in and you think you're going to know everything that these courses have to teach you, and you're going to use them all in 4 weeks, then by all means you're in. But I would recommend that, and I would suggest that maybe the longer running ones, the larger masterminds, the ones that are the $100,000, they don't have commitments of 1 month. They probably have commitments of quite a bit longer.
Yeah, and I didn't really touch on that, so thank you for bringing that back up. And just to what you said about the $100,000 one, like the ones that are that expensive, like I wouldn't know from experience, right? But I would assume, and I actually have a few friends that are in that one. But I would assume the value there is rubbing shoulders and connections. Really a mastermind can be like Greek life in college, paying for your friends, but paying for your connections. And I mean, I'm not going to say any names, but I know a dude that joined a mastermind, and now he's crushing it because of the mastermind. He was introduced to Rogan, and now Rogan's promoting his stuff. You know what I mean? So like, boom, there you go. And for him, it was a really small investment to get that, right? So you're not necessarily going to get that with a lower level, like lower priced one, but for the higher level ones, one would expect that you're going to have those introductions of connections.
Mhm.
In terms of getting out of it what you put into it, with Fit for Service, when I joined in January of last year, we had all this digital communication. This is pre-COVID, and all these Zoom calls before Zoom was like a regular thing, and just like 150 people blowing each other up. And I joined a little late, and I was like, I'm going to meet these people in person. I'm not going to like get involved with all this digital communication. Like, this is too much. Call me old school, whatever. And then I showed up to our summit, and I felt like a fish out of water, because like it felt like everyone knew each other, and they're like, "Oh, I watched your intro video," or "I connected." There goes my dog. But but yeah. So, anyways, I learned coming back from it that I really need to get involved more on a digital way. And now
Yeah.
fast forward, now I'm what they call a lighthouse member. So like I'm one of the members that are there to show other members the way. And like I said, I lead the business call and all that. So I've really grown within our own mastermind because I put in the work. Had I stayed at that same kind of level of, oh, I'm not going to do stuff digitally, I'm just going to do the in-person stuff, it wouldn't have done anything for me. You know what I mean?
I love it. I think that's perfect. Again, Sam Kabert, cloneyourselfuniversity.com. We do have the link over in the Facebook comments there. Sam, thank you so much, man, for taking a little bit of time out of your day and speaking to us, man. We always appreciate it.
Thanks, Brandon. Love you, brother. Thank you for the opportunity. You guys at Promo Corner are amazing. I love what you guys are doing, and you're honestly just crushing it. The whole team there is amazing. So hats off to you guys.
Thanks, man. Thank you so much. And thank you so much to everybody out there watching. And if you are watching this later, thanks for checking it out now. This is always live every Thursday, Express Training Bites. And that's going to do it for today. So we'll see you next Thursday.